You've done it 1,000 times. You're sitting on the couch, deep in thought, and you realize you need something from the kitchen. Maybe it's a snack, maybe it's your keys, maybe it's your will to live. You get up, walk with purpose through the living room, cross the threshold into the kitchen, and stop. You stand there, bathed in the glow of the refrigerator light, a complete and utter blank. The mission-critical thought that propelled you off the couch has vanished, beamed away by some invisible memory thief who apparently lives in your door frames. Congratulations, you've just been hit by the doorway effect. Psychologists call this an event boundary, and it's a fascinatingly stupid glitch in our brain's filing system. Your brain, in its endless quest for efficiency, compartmentalizes information. When you're in one room, it loads up all the relevant data for that event, sitting on the couch, watching TV, feeling hungry. But the moment you walk through a doorway and enter a new room, your brain says, "Okay, scene change. End of the previous event. Time to dump that data cache and get ready for the new one." It essentially archives the memory of what you wanted, assuming it's no longer relevant because you've physically changed locations. It's the mental equivalent of closing a program on your computer to free up RAM. The doorway acts as a trigger to wipe the slate clean. So your brain isn't failing, it's just being a little too aggressive with its housekeeping. It doesn't realize you were trying to carry a thought from one tab to the next. The only solution is the walk of shame back to the original room, where the thought is usually, infuriatingly, waiting for you right where you left it. Imagine going to the doctor with a splitting headache. The doctor, in a crisp white coat, gives you a very serious look and hands you a brand new, incredibly powerful painkiller. You take the pill, and within 30 minutes your headache magically melts away. The pill worked, except for one tiny detail. The pill was made of nothing but sugar and good intentions. This is the placebo effect, and it is one of the most powerful, baffling, and downright spooky glitches in human biology. We know it works. In clinical trials for new drugs, a certain percentage of people in the placebo group, the ones getting the fake treatment, will report real, measurable improvements. Their pain subsides, their nausea fades, their blood pressure drops. Their bodies are creating a genuine physiological reaction to a completely inert substance. But how? Science has theories, but no one has the complete answer. It's not just all in your head in the dismissive sense. Your brain, once it's convinced it's receiving a real treatment, can actually trigger the release of its own natural painkillers, like endorphins, and can influence things like heart rate and immune response. What's even weirder is how specific it can be. 2 sugar pills are often more effective than 1. A saltwater injection is more powerful than a pill. The color of the pill matters. Blue pills are better for sleep, while red ones are better stimulants. The more ritual and performance involved in giving the placebo, the stronger its effect. Essentially, your brain is so profoundly suggestible that it can be tricked into healing your body, as long as the story you tell it is convincing enough. There is no biological event more mundane, and yet more mysterious, than a yawn. First of all, we still don't have one single, universally accepted reason for why we do it in the first place. The old theory was that we yawn to take in more oxygen for our oxygen-deprived brains, but that's been largely debunked. The leading theory now is that it's a brain-cooling mechanism, like a built-in radiator fan that kicks in when our noggins are getting a little too hot from thinking too hard or being too tired. But that's still just a well-educated guess. The real glitch, the part that science just shrugs at, is why yawns are so absurdly contagious. You don't even have to see someone yawn. Hearing a yawn, reading the word yawn, or even just thinking about yawning is probably making you want to yawn right now. Go on, let it out. This isn't just a simple reflex. It's a complex social phenomenon that we still can't pin down. The leading hypothesis is that it's tied to empathy and social bonding. Neuroimaging studies show that when we see someone yawn, the parts of our brain associated with empathy and social function light up. People who are more empathetic tend to be more susceptible to contagious yawning. It's a primitive, unconscious way of saying, "I see that you are tired and or have a warm brain, and I am emotionally in sync with you." Children don't typically develop contagious yawning until around age 4, the same time they start developing more advanced social skills. So the next time you set off a chain reaction of yawns in a meeting, you haven't just bored everyone to tears. You've initiated a subconscious and slightly creepy group empathy check. Ever learn a new, obscure word like petrichor, the pleasant smell of rain on dry earth, and suddenly you see it everywhere? You read it in a book the next day, hear it in a podcast, and then your friend uses it in a text. Or maybe you buy a new car, a nice, sensible blue Honda, and all at once the streets are absolutely flooded with blue Hondas. It feels like the universe is playing a prank on you, that reality has somehow shifted to center around your new piece of knowledge. This isn't the universe messing with you. It's your brain's own faulty search engine going into overdrive. This is the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, or the frequency illusion. Science tells us this is a tag-team effort between two other glitches in our cognitive programming. The first is selective attention. Once you learn something new, your brain subconsciously flags it as important. It's like telling your internal spam filter, "Hey, this is no longer junk mail." Your brain then starts actively scanning for it in the background, so you notice it way more than you ever did before. The blue Hondas were always there, you just never cared enough to see them. The second part of the tag team is confirmation bias. Every time you spot the new word or car, your brain pumps its fist and says, "See, I knew it." It really is everywhere. It reinforces the belief that the frequency has genuinely increased, ignoring all the times it doesn't appear. We don't know exactly why our brains are so susceptible to this powerful illusion. It's a cognitive shortcut that's supposed to help us recognize patterns, but it's so easily fooled that it makes us believe our private thoughts can alter the fabric of the outside world. For some people, the sound of someone whispering, the soft crinkle of a plastic wrapper, or the sight of someone folding laundry can trigger a bizarre and intensely pleasurable sensation. It's described as a warm, static-like tingle that starts at the crown of the head and cascades down the neck and spine. It's a feeling of deep relaxation and euphoria, a brain orgasm without the, well, you know. This is ASMR, or Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, and it's a massive internet phenomenon that science is just beginning to take seriously. The problem is, we have almost no idea what it is. For the millions who experience it, it's a real physical sensation. Yet for others, the exact same sounds are just sounds. Or worse, they're incredibly irritating, like nails on a chalkboard. Why can one person be sent into a state of bliss by the sound of gentle tapping, while the person next to them wants to punch a wall? The leading theories are all over the place. Some scientists speculate it could be a type of synesthesia, where senses get cross-wired. Others think the sounds might trigger deep-seated evolutionary responses related to grooming, intimacy, and feeling safe, like a primate getting bugs picked out of its fur. Brain scans of people experiencing ASMR do show activity in the regions associated with reward and emotional arousal. But that doesn't explain the why. It doesn't tell us what the underlying mechanism is, or why it only exists for a subset of the population. It's a sensory glitch in its purest form. A set of completely random, non-threatening stimuli that somehow hijacks the brain's pleasure centers, and we are nowhere near understanding the password to get in. There is no human glitch more disorienting than déjà vu. You walk into a room for the first time, or have a conversation with a friend, and suddenly you're hit with an overwhelming, unshakable certainty that you have been in this exact moment before. Every detail is familiar: the light, the sounds, the words being said. It's not just a feeling of similarity, it's a full-blown sensation of reliving a memory. And just as quickly as it arrives, the feeling evaporates, leaving you confused and questioning your own sanity. So what is it? A glimpse into a past life? A premonition you had in a dream? Science rather boringly says probably not, but it doesn't have a definitive answer either. One of the most popular theories is that it's a tiny neurological processing error. Your brain has multiple pathways for processing sensory input and logging it into memory. A momentary delay, a few milliseconds, in one of those pathways could cause your brain to perceive a brand new live event as an old memory being recalled. Your brain is essentially receiving the same information twice in rapid succession, with the first signal being interpreted as the past and the second as the present. Another theory suggests a brief misfire in the rhinal cortex, a part of the brain that signals familiarity. For a split second, this region might activate by mistake, flagging a new experience as familiar without any corresponding memory to back it up. So you get the raw feeling of familiarity without the content. Whichever it is, It's a profound reminder that our perception of time and memory is incredibly fragile, and a single crossed wire can make reality feel like a rerun. For most of us, our senses operate in their own neat, tidy lanes. We see with our eyes, hear with our ears, and taste with our tongues. But for some people, the neurological wiring is more like a bowl of spaghetti. These are people with synesthesia, a condition where stimulating one sense automatically triggers an experience in a completely different, unrelated sense. And it's not a metaphor. They don't just associate the letter A with the color red. For them, the letter A is red with all the vividness of a ripe tomato. This is a true crossing of the wires in the brain. Some people might taste shapes. A chicken dinner might taste pointy. Others see sounds, where a trumpet blast creates a visual burst of jagged gold lines. One of the most common forms is grapheme color synesthesia, where letters and numbers each have their own distinct, consistent color. This isn't a choice. It's an involuntary and permanent feature of their perception. Scientists believe it's caused by extraneural connections between different sensory regions of the brain. Areas that are normally separate have little crosstalk pathways. But why this happens in some people and not others is a complete mystery. What's really baffling is the consistency. If a synesthete says the number 7 is a dusty yellow, it will be that same dusty yellow for the rest of their life. It's a deeply personal and unchangeable part of their reality. They are experiencing a richer, and arguably much weirder, version of the world than the rest of us. For them, reality isn't just in high definition. It's running on a completely different operating system where the user interface is a chaotic, psychedelic mess that somehow makes perfect sense. Of all the glitches in the human machine, phantom limb syndrome is perhaps the most haunting. A person loses an arm in an accident. The limb is gone. It does not exist. And yet, months or even years later, they can feel an excruciating itch on a finger that is no longer there. They can feel the distinct sensation of a cramp in a calf muscle that has been amputated. The brain is generating vivid, undeniable, and often painful sensations from a ghost. Science has a compelling but incomplete explanation for this. It's called cortical remapping. In your brain, there is a detailed map of your entire body called the sensory cortex. Every finger, toe, and patch of skin has a corresponding group of neurons. When you lose a limb, that section of the brain map is suddenly unemployed. It's getting no input, no signals, no purpose. So, like any bored neighbor, it starts listening in on the conversations next door. The part of the brain map for the face, for example, is right next to the map for the hand. So nerve signals from the face can start to bleed over into the silent hand area. The result: the brain interprets this new input from the face as a signal coming from the phantom hand. A person might feel a touch on their cheek and simultaneously feel their phantom pinky finger being stroked. While this theory explains the mechanism, it doesn't fully capture the sheer high-fidelity reality of the pain or the itch. How can the brain generate such a specific, agonizing sensation from what is essentially crossed wires and bad data? It proves that our entire sense of our physical selves is not based on our body, but on a stubborn, persistent map in our heads, a map that sometimes refuses to believe a part of its territory is gone. You're about to make a big decision. Take a job, trust a person, walk down a dark alley. Your logical brain has weighed the pros and cons and says everything looks fine. But deep in your gut, an alarm bell is screaming. It's a powerful, visceral feeling of wrongness that you can't articulate. This is intuition, that strange, psychic-like ability to know something without knowing how you know it. And while it feels like magic, it's one of the most powerful and least understood processes of the human mind. The most logical explanation is that intuition is just hyper-fast, subconscious pattern recognition. Over your entire life, your brain has been collecting a colossal database of experiences, social cues, microexpressions, and environmental details. When you face a new situation, your conscious mind plods along with its slow, deliberate logic. But your subconscious brain is like a supercomputer, instantly cross-referencing the new data with everything you've ever experienced. It sees a tiny, almost invisible flicker of dishonesty in someone's eyes or recognizes a familiar but dangerous pattern in a situation, and it sends up a red flag. The problem is, it doesn't show its work. The subconscious mind doesn't send you a detailed report explaining its findings. It just sends you the conclusion, packaged as a raw emotion, a gut feeling, a sense of dread, or a wave of confidence. This process is so fast and opaque that we can't trace its source, leaving it feeling like a message from another dimension. We still don't fully understand the limits of this ability or how to reliably access it. It's the ultimate human glitch. Your own brain knows the answer, but it refuses to tell you why. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.